Jack Ma, founder, chairman, and chief executive officer of Alibaba Group, a global e-commerce leader and the largest e-commerce company in China. As the chairman, chief executive of Alibaba Group, he is responsible for the overall strategy and the focus of the company. Started in 1999 as an online global marketplace providing export marketing services to Chinese SMEs, Alibaba has over the years innovated and developed successful businesses in consumer e-commerce, online payment, cloud computing, and micro-lending areas, the full spectrum of the modern world of e-commerce. In the 14 years since it started, Alibaba has become an online giant, employing more than 24,000 people in approximately 70 cities globally. Last year, Alibaba's Tmall and Taobao marketplaces, China's two largest online shopping websites, achieved a combined annual transaction volume of over 1 trillion RMB, approximately 157 billion US dollars, with a record 3.1 billion in a single day of sales in November. And this is just the beginning.
We're born in Hangzhou, where the headquarters still are.
Yep.
And your campus is there.
You don't have a loot, don't move your loot. Your headquarters there. Yeah, you found it there, loot there.
You grew up in the 60s.
64.
Born in 64. That was the time of the Cultural Revolution.
Yeah, it was the end of the Cultural Revolution. It was, well, my grandfather was a tiny landlord, was considered, after liberation, was considered to be a bad guy. So I know how tough it was when I was a kid.
You tried to get into 3 colleges. Mm-hmm. Each time they rejected you.
No, I tried. There's an examination that young people, if you want to go to university, you have to take the examinations. So I failed 3 times. Right. But a lot of fail. I failed for funny things that I failed a key primary school test for 2 times. And I failed 3 times for the middle schools. And you will never believe in Hangzhou, my city, there's only 1 middle school that lasts only 1 year. It was changed from primary school to middle school because our graduates of our school, no middle school accept us because we were too bad. Yeah. They would become a middle school.
What effect did it have, though, being rejected?
Well, I think we have to get used to it. We're not that good. Even today, we still have a lot of people reject us. I think when I graduated from universities, and before I, for 3 years, I tried to fill in the universities. So I applied jobs for 30 times, got rejected. I went for a police, they said, no, you're not good. I went to even the KFC. When KFC came to China, come to my city, 24 people went for the job. Yeah. 23 people were accepted. I was the only one guy. And we went for police. 5 people, 4 of them accepted. I was the only guy that did not receive it. So to me, being turned down, rejected. Oh, by the way, I told you that I applied for Harvard for 10 times, rejected. I know I'll be rejected. I just want to say that.
They're sorry now. 10 times you wrote them and said, I'd like to come to Harvard.
Yeah. And then I told myself, someday I should go teach there, maybe.
First visit to America in 1995?
1995, yeah. I came here for a project helping the local government to building up a highway.
And you tried the internet?
I tried the internet in Seattle. And in a building called the U.S. Bank. I don't know whether the U.S. Bank is still there or not, but there's a building. And my friend opened a small office, which is like only 10% bigger than this room. And there are a lot of computers in there. And he said, Jack, this is internet. I asked, what is internet? He said, search whatever you want. At that time, they used Mosaic, very slow, right? Yeah. And I said, I don't use it. I don't want to type because computer is so expensive in China. If I destroy it,
Yes.
I cannot pay. He said, just to search it. So I searched the first word, beer. I don't know why, because it's easy to spell, baby. And I see beers from Germany, beers from USA, beers from Japan, but there's no beer from China. And I say, okay, type the second word is China. No data.
Nothing.
Nothing. And I said,
1995.
1995, no data about China. So I talked to my friend, why not make something about China? So we made a small, very ugly looking page called China. It's something like I did a translation agency, we listed on there. It was so shocking. We launched at 9:40 in the morning. 12:30, I got a phone call from my friend. He said, Jack, you got 5 emails. I said, what is email? And they say, these are the things. So people so excited. Where are you? This is the first time I see a Chinese website on that. How can we can we do something together? So I think this is something interesting. So we should do it.
Why did you call it Alibaba?
Alibaba? Well, when I started, I think internet is global. We should have a global name. And a name that, interesting, like at that time, the best name is Yahoo. Right, so I've been thinking for many days, suddenly think Alibaba is a good name. So I happened to be in San Francisco that day. I did have a lunch, and the waitress came. I asked her, do you know about Alibaba? She said, yes. I said, what is Alibaba? She said, Open Sesame. Good. So I went on the street, asked about 10, 20 people. They all know about Alibaba, 40 Thieves, and Open Sesame. And I think this is a good name. And start with A. Whatever you talk about, Alibaba is always top.
Your life is a testament to the idea that nothing is impossible. That if somebody says no, you say it's just the beginning. Where does that come from?
Well, at the beginning, I never thought, I thought when I was young, I said, everything's possible. Now I know not everything's possible. When you have something, you have to think about, you have to consider about the others. You have to consider about the customer, society, your employees, your shareholders, society. There are so many things that I think if you continue to work hard, there's possibility. And I just feel that I'm enthusiastic about what we are doing. At the beginning, for the first 5 years, I just want to survive. And 5 years later, I think...
That's 2000, from 90...
Yeah. But later, I think, wow, so many people's life changed. I was so excited, for the first 3 years, we made zero revenue. Zero revenue. But we are so excited to continue to work. You know what happened? I remember many times when I go to a restaurant and have dinner, somebody came, when I was trying to pay the bill, the owner of the restaurant came to say, sir, your bill is paid by someone. And the small note say, hey, Mr. Ma, I'm your customer of Alibaba Group, Alibaba platform. I made a lot of money, and I know you don't make any money. I pay the bill for you.
Yeah.
And I remember one day that I was sitting somewhere in the coffee, somebody sending me a cigar. I don't smoke cigar, but there's a note that, thank you very much, I'm your customer. And I remember in the Taobao days, I was at the Shangri-La Hotel in Beijing. When I got on the taxi, the man who opened the door for me, the boy at the gate, he said, Jack, thank you very much. I'm the service here. My girlfriend makes more money than I do on your site. And this is something that you know that it's not amazing. If you don't do it, nothing's possible. If you try to do it, at least you have the hope. We have a second after Walmart. So tiny.
Second after Walmart.
Yeah. Tiny of the of the money already make us big. So, we second after Walmart, I remember one of the senior management of Walmart guys came to Hangzhou 5 years ago. He said, Jack, You know, you do a great job and blah, blah, blah. So I said, maybe in 10 years we'll be bigger than Walmart. He said, young man, you have a good hope. So we said, make a bet. I think in 10 years we'll be bigger than Walmart on the sales. Because if you want to have 10,000 new customers, you have to build a new warehouse and this, that. For me, 2 servers. I was very depressed when I could not find out a way for the internet. And then I watched the movie in my friend's home, Forrest Gump. When I see him, I think, this is the guy we should learn from. Believe what you're doing, love it, whether people like it, don't like it, be simple. And like the word, life is like a box of chocolate. You never know what you can get, right? I never know I would be here talking to you and talking to Charlie Rose. I never know. But today I made it. I told my people in my apartment 15 years ago, guys, we have to work hard, not for ourselves. If we can be successful, 80% of the young people in China can be successful. We don't have a rich father, powerful uncle. We don't have $1 from bank, 1 cent from government. Just work as a team.
So what do you worry about?
I worry about it today. Young people, a lot of young people lose hope, lose vision, and start to complain. Because we also have the same period. Because when it's not a good feeling being rejected by so many people. We also depressed, but at least later we find that the world has a lot of opportunity. How you see the world, how you catch the opportunity. So in the business, calm down. There's always way out. And keep yourself balanced. And meanwhile, don't try to, because business is a competition is a fun. Business is not like a battlefield. You die or I win. Business, even if you die, I may not win. Right? So it's about fun.
His creator, J.K. Rowling, is the first self-made billionaire author in history, selling more than 400 million books, captivating readers in 69 languages and 200 countries around the world. Harry's final chapter, The Deathly Hallows, is the fastest-selling book of all time. No wonder she's credited with doing more for literacy than anyone else on the planet. Her empire spans movies, merchandise, even an amusement park. The Harry Potter blockbusters are the highest-grossing movie franchise in Hollywood history, raking in $5.3 billion and still counting.
There's a quotation that I almost used in the Harry Potter book. I'm paraphrasing, this won't be exact. In magic, man has to rely on himself. So in religion, of course, you're looking for outside support. But that's the appeal of magic. I'm not saying I believe magic is real, I don't. But that's the perennial appeal of magic, the idea that we ourselves have power and we can shape our world. Mm-hmm. I sometimes think it's very analogous to having a lot of money. That people think, because that's kind of like a superpower. I've often thought this since all this happened to me. People think, well, you can solve anything now.
After selling more than 400 million copies of this series, it's hard to believe that 12 publishers rejected The Sorcerer's Stone. 13 turned out to be a lucky number. A publisher, bewitched by the spectacular tale, finally agreed to print it. J.K. signed the deal with a warning from her agent. You'll never make money writing children's books. In the United States, you're known as the first billionaire author.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how has being the first billionaire author affected your perception of yourself?
I dress better.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not just about money, because you meet lots of rich people who dress atrociously. It's more that you can afford to, well, you can definitely afford better clothes. I think the single biggest thing that money gave me, and obviously I came from a place where I was a single mother, and it really was hand to mouth at one point. Mm-hmm. It was as literally as poor as you can get in Britain without being homeless at one point. If you've ever been there, you will never, ever take for granted that you don't need to worry.
Before J.K. Rowling became one of the world's richest women, she led a modest life as a secretary in London. She was 25 years old when her mother died from multiple sclerosis, sending Jo into an emotional tailspin. Desperate to escape the pain, she moved to Portugal, married and gave birth to her first daughter, Jessica. But the marriage was, in Jo's words, short and catastrophic. She packed up her daughter, moved to Scotland, where she hit a new low. Jo was clinically depressed and struggling to survive on welfare. First of all, you talked about how rock bottom became the foundation from which you rebuilt your life. But the most important thing was about how to use failure.
Failure is so important. It doesn't get spoken about enough. We speak about success all the time. But, you know, I do not know any, I haven't met, and I've been so fortunate and met extraordinary people through Harry Potter, and not one of them didn't have their failure. There more than one failure. And it's the ability to resist failure in many ways, or use failure, that often leads to the greatest success, isn't it? So, yeah, failure. I've often met people who are terrified, you know, in a straitjacket of their own making, because they'd rather do anything than fail. They don't want to try for fear of failing. Well, that's the rock bottom thing. Rock bottom wasn't fun at all. I'm not going to romanticize rock bottom, but it was liberating. What did I have to lose?
I have decided to talk to you about the benefits of failure. You might be driven by a fear of failure quite as much as a desire for success. Indeed, your conception of failure might not be too far removed from the average person's idea of success. So high have you already flown. Ultimately, we all have to decide for ourselves what constitutes failure. But the world is quite eager to give you a set of criteria if you let it. So I think it fair to say that by any conventional measure, a mere 7 years after my graduation day, I had failed on an epic scale. An exceptionally short-lived marriage had imploded, and I was jobless, a lone parent, and as poor as it is possible to be in modern Britain without being homeless. The fears that my parents had had for me and that I had had for myself had both come to pass. And by every usual standard, I was the biggest failure I knew. Now, I'm not going to stand here and tell you that failure is fun. That period of my life was a dark one, and I had no idea that there was going to be what the press has since represented as a kind of fairy tale resolution. I had no idea then how far the tunnel extended, and for a long time, any light at the end of it was a hope rather than a reality. So why do I talk about the benefits of failure? Simply because failure meant a stripping away of the inessential. I stopped pretending to myself that I was anything other than what I was, and began to direct all my energy into finishing the only work that mattered to me. Had I really succeeded at anything else, I might never have found the determination to succeed in the one arena where I believed I truly belonged. I was set free because my greatest fear had been realized, and I was still alive, and I still had a daughter whom I adored, and I had an old typewriter and a big idea. And so rock bottom became the solid foundation on which I rebuilt my life. You might never fail on the scale I did, but some failure in life is inevitable. It is impossible to live without failing at something, unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all, in which case you fail by default. Failure gave me an inner security that I had never attained by passing examinations. Failure taught me things about myself that I could have learned no other way. I discovered that I had a strong will and more discipline than I had suspected. I also found out that I had friends whose value was truly above the price of rubies. The knowledge that you have emerged wiser and stronger from setbacks means that you are, ever after, secure in your ability to survive. You will never truly know yourself, or the strength of your relationships until both have been tested by adversity. Such knowledge is a true gift, for all that it is painfully won, and it has been worth more than any qualification I ever earned. So given a time turner, I would tell my 21-year-old self that personal happiness lies in knowing that life is not a checklist of acquisition or achievement. Your qualifications, your CV, are not your life, though you will meet many people of my age and older who confuse the two. Life is difficult and complicated and beyond anyone's total control, and the humility to know that will enable you to survive its vicissitudes. What we achieve inwardly will change outer reality. That is an astonishing statement, and yet proven 1,000 times every day of our lives. It expresses in part our inescapable connection with the outside world, the fact that we touch other people's lives simply by existing.